agreement with Surfer. Since we've changed that, I probably need to lower that revenue.
Okay.
But even then, you see, even at spending $75,000 a year, that's a placeholder. We still end with $300,000. So we have money in there to do things. We might not have enough money to buy a tower or buy the property
But we
next to
can
it.
keep it.
Correct. It's
functional.
running. We're maintaining it with that fund. We're just not doing new fancy things with that fund right now. We call it the 375, the capital equipment and apparatus and replacement one. We're gonna skip right over this because I have two more detailed slides that really go into it, that feed into that cell. And so you can see here, this has all of our major equipment and apparatus. It has what it is, obviously. It has how much we spent for it, when we bought it. And then the important is the expected life cycle. So when you adopt this plan, we would, for the first time, have what we have all agreed to is the life cycle for each thing. It has when we're gonna replace it, and how much that's gonna cost with the inflator. And 3% over the last year seems like a small number, but historically it has worked for everybody that I know when you're looking at 10, 15, 20, 30 years.
Yeah.
The other key thing is you can see the numbers here, we can tweak this. We can be like, oh, that truck is not doing well, we need to replace it 5 years ago, and it changes all that and puts it in. Or, hey, that staff vehicle actually has a lot of life on it, we can keep it for an extra 3 years. And so we can change that even as we go to tweak that. And this is a good graphical representation. And for this one, it goes out much farther than 6 years. It's going out almost 20 years. I have only shown you a few because it would get too small that I wouldn't be able to read it. But this is a good way to see what we're buying when we're buying it. But that goes into another sheet that is managing the reserve fund itself. So how much are we putting into the fund? How much are we taking out of the fund on a yearly basis? How much interest are we gaining from the fund? And you can see we have been averaging anywhere between 4 and 7, and I've only put 1.5. Again, very conservative of our interest pool. We should do better than that. And then the ending balance. And you can see here, again, we have a little negative, not worried about it. Things move around pretty easy. Again, this is a negative out of our total reserve, which is 15 or 14 million. So again, we could move money around reserves. We just have to put another 100,000 in and it would be fine. So again, not concerned about that, looking out 7, 8 years. And again, this one goes to 2038. And so again, this shows you how we're putting money in to make sure that we will always, all those future boards, again, the chief in 20 years, the commissioners in 20 years can replace engines, can replace bus rigs, can replace the ladders. Again, it's our job to set them up to not have to go through this exercise all again. And this, don't look at the red box. I got tired of moving numbers from the cash flow budgets into this, and so this red box was done in the first presentation. And once you adopt that capital funding plan, then I will update this sheet with all those numbers. The important is I do have the amount that's coming out of the general fund into that cash flow sheet so that we make sure we're maintaining the balance of cash going into the capital plan. And that's it. I did not coordinate with Jim, but he set this up perfectly. Thank you.
And just as a point of clarification, so your capital equipment fund and your training center fund, those are all considered unrestricted.
Everything is.
Yeah, so that goes into that over and above that 37%.
Correct.
So that really sets you up nicely.
Correct. We're running about a 50% total reserve fund.
Yeah.
And again, the auditor, all the financial people, they're all unrestricted. For us, we can be restricted because it's just easier. We're not financial people like you, so.
Yeah. Which is good.
Yes. We know we don't have to restrict them, so we don't.
Yeah, that's great.
Any questions on that one? We purposely put one at the beginning and one at the end because we knew how riveting each presentation was.
So,
You got a bridge to sell? Circling back to the $6 million increase in labor costs.
There goes my kid's job.
It would be interesting to see if we plug that 6 million back in, what the long-term impact would be if we use that for facilities instead. And whether in the grand scheme of things, it would make that much difference.
Well, it's not 6 million in the end, but let's just use that number, I mean, at the beginning, let's
Yeah.
just use that number then. That's about a 6-year plan, $6 million over 6 years, 36 million, we were gonna borrow 30 million. So, that's why when I showed you originally, there was probably gonna be need to loan, because the likelihood that we were gonna hit that all perfectly was
Yeah.
next to nothing.
Yeah.
But I was expecting, the $5 to $10 million total loan. The budget, you take that money out, and that 5 to 10 becomes 30 pretty easily. But again, we don't take a loan, but you also can't take a loan out to do staffing. So if you wanna do both, I mean, you're just moving coconuts around. So if we wanna do the staffing, and a loan's not necessarily a bad thing. Again, if you look at, the cost of construction, it's probably, the interest on the loan is probably cheaper than the construction cost increase. Not doing the staffing, maybe without doing the staffing, we don't get as much community support or employee support. So I'm not saying one is right or wrong.
So I'm confident that we've made the right decision. It's nice to be able to look and see, the what ifs, so that if somebody asks, Joe Citizens, well, why did you do that? It cost. It's good to have that background. So, well, we could have done this, but we felt that this was,
Right, and we don't know, I mean, I got a good handle on labor costs, but you don't know until the contracts are signed. And so what I will say is our labor costs are gonna be set. Our labor costs are set, not the number of people. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So our budget is what's set. And so if we get partway through that and labor costs went up more because we did the comparables and they deserved a 47% raise, or the part-time program goes away and we have to shift 4 people to that. We might not get to 16 on duty day, we only might get to 13 or 14.
Yeah.
Because if we go down this system, right, then we are kind of locked, once we take the loans out and do the things, we're locked into $60 million for labor costs in 2030, not 22 people. That also might mean we can do 24, so that, there's a lot of unknowns there.
And the elephant in the room that we haven't discussed is if we get into bonds or loans or whatever else, kind of creative financing, and we end up deciding to enter into a cooperative agreement with somebody else, what happens then?
Well, that's actually, now you're jumping ahead to next meeting.
Kind of like marriage. Oh, well.
It's my money and your money.
He comes in with.
Sign a prenup?
Yeah.
Package.
Yeah.
Comes with the kids.
Our biggest advantage is our capital funding plan and the way we have done this. That is, and Clearview's consulting report is gonna say that. It's pretty obvious. We have the same tax rate roughly as Surfer, but they haven't funded their capital, right? There's an outstanding balance of about 25 to 30 cents a thousand, right? So at some point, buildings don't last forever. They're either gonna have to reduce their general fund budget to fund the capital like we're doing, or they're gonna have to ask for a voted on bond and increase the level of the tax. South County is funding their service for less than us, but they have an outstanding capital fund of about 25 to 30 cents. So when they fund theirs, they'll be about the same as us. Right, and so when we look at merging, that is a huge bill, the capital facilities for all 3 of us, right? And so how we've all done that and what's outstanding and what's not outstanding and who's done bonds, who's not done bonds, when they do bonds is all really important for you guys to decide. So if we have councilmanic bonds and we merge, the new organization is responsible for our bonds. right? And so that's good for us, right? We take our debt in and the whole new group pays for our debt. If we merge in to, say, South County and they haven't done a levy, and they pass a levy the year after, or bond, if the year after we move in, all of our people get to pay for our, and we haven't done bonds, they get to pay for our stations before we merge, and South County's after we merge. So that's bad. So that timing, there isn't a pro or a con whether we do it. It's more about how do we do that timing,
Yeah.
right? And if we bring our councilmanic bonds in, let's say we have $30 million in debt and it equals about 15 cents, and we're merging with South County and they say, hey, we're gonna go out for a bond next year for 15 cents, well, that's a wash, right? Our voters are gonna have to pay the 15 cents if it passes, but the new organization is paying our $30 million councilmanic bonds down, which is equal to about 15 cents. So those are just things that you as a board have to figure out, how do you weight those things, and how do you determine, it's not a we should or shouldn't merge, it's more like, how is this merger gonna happen and when's it gonna happen?
Yeah. Jim, have you, in your experience, have you worked through any of those kind of similar situations? Yeah.
Yeah, I consulted like Stevens Fire 8. I live in Surfer, I live in Mill Creek. And so I was talking with them, they said, well, we're talking to Snohomish Fire 7 on merger, what do you think we should do? And I said, as a taxpayer, if I'm in Surfer, Snohomish Fire 7, and now the station, going to the voters and the improvements are only up in Lake Stevens, and it begs the question, what am I getting out of it?
Mm-hmm.
So they just waited until after the merger. So the way that state law goes is that the voters that vote on something, they're on the hook for the term of the financing, and if a merger, an annexation happens after the vote, then your taxpayers are still responsible for that debt because they had the right to vote on it. And so normally you don't see that there's, that you might say the new annexed district would take on that voted bond because those taxpayers didn't have the right to vote on it. So that's the way it works on a voted bond,
Okay.
which makes sense. For a non-voted bond, I've just seen that it's negotiated. So it's exactly what Don was saying.
So like,
We'll arm wrestle for it.
so like you can tell South County, hey, we're interested in merger, but we're gonna do a contract for service until you've done your bond, and once it passes and it's obligated to your people, because we've already paid for ours, then we'll do the official vote, but we'll do a contract, but we're not gonna come
Okay.
in legally until you've got
So
your-
there's creative
your
ways.
debt. Yeah, it's part of that negotiating of how do we do the merger. Like I said, it's not we won't merge, it's more like how and when.
Yeah,
Yeah.
cool. Other questions or comments? Thank you.
We're halfway through.
Yeah, but the rest of the stuff. We will revisit this next meeting. Yeah.
Yeah.
We get a chance to mull it over. We have some things that we need to take care of. There is a policy update for 208. We looked at that first time, and I was wishing Chief Rader was here because I wanted to commend him on his use of Latin.
Which one? The amendments?
No,
Oh.
the fiscal impact, de minimis.
Yeah.
De minimis.
Well, you, any questions? on that? I move that we adopt that revised policy.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor? Aye. I would still like to have him follow up on that whole language thing that we're talking about, just to make sure that people aren't getting beat up by some collection agency for $100 from the fire department. I don't want to come across as that kind of an agency.
I agree.
An AED purchase? Or
Yes.
two?
Three.
Three.
Or three?
Yes, MSO Bromley and the EMS committee has been hounding us for a while to start the process of replacing some of the older units. So we have a few units located in some of the stations that are in the AED boxes, and also with the addition of one staff rig that doesn't currently have one. So this is the start of many more of these over the next 5-6 years, because they're all starting to kind of time out of that 10-year cycle.
Are these included in that great big spreadsheet, Chief?
The AEDs are not.
Are not.
The life packs are.
Okay.
So the AEDs, they do range in price. You can get them fairly cheap to more expensive depending on what model, because these new models, when we get them, will go on first hour rigs, and then we'll shuffle the older models into the stations and staff rigs.
What's their life expectancy?
I believe it's 10 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we might possibly have one or two that are older, a little longer in the tooth than even 10 years.
Which is really a long time in today's world of electronics.
Of technology, yeah.
Yeah, technology.
Yeah.
So are you gonna roll, is your intent to roll that replacement into the regular replacement capital?
I don't know if we'll, they're spread out enough that it might be more like every year for the next, it might be a $2,000 to $6,000 cost, just depending on how many are timing out.
Okay.
So I don't know if it would necessarily have to be in the capital, just because their range in price, I think, what was it, $8,400 for 3, and we're getting more of a first responder version. They have cheaper versions of the AEDs, but these do have a few more features, since they will go on the engine, and they'll be used by EMTs and medics if a medic unit's not on scene. A little bit different than the one you'd see at Home Depot. So they have different options within the AEDs. So we're starting the process where the old ones are starting to time out.
And you've got capacity in the line, right? You're just gonna redistribute?
Yeah, it's already in the EMS. It wasn't well-defined. It was diagnostic equipment, which it falls under that, but yes.
Discretionary spending?
Yes, we have it in the line item to fund it.
Okay.
So I will say that all the AEDs are not in our capital, but the 12 leads are.
Yeah.
We replaced.
Yeah. Chief.
Sorry, I had to take a break.
Questions? No. Motion?
Move to approve.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
And large warrants. One for,
2 for Lawhead, 1 for Favor.
yeah.
Yeah.
Any questions on those? I move we approve those warrants.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And scrolling. Transport waivers. These are both requests for bill and waive the copay, right? I think, yeah. I move we approve both. Or just 2, correct?
Yep.
Yeah.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. See, that went quickly.
Yes, you did. I would agree.
Staff reports?
Yeah, Chief, can I get the clicker? I got my presentation.
You guys- you got your
Chief Hawkins' long way
I'd
till-
like
Yeah,
some
you
coffee,
guys, would you
please.
guys like a bathroom break before we? Yeah. I gave you the June hours report, nothing standing out. We did have 13 days. I keep teasing the VCs that we're gonna put a sign in their office, kind of like they do on the highways, 13 days without a fatality accident. We had 13 days with nobody out on an L&I injury, but we have one currently that's out with a busted finger.
13?
So,
That's-
13
Yeah,
days.
13, yeah.
It's
Wow.
not. We're hoping to get healthy. So gave you the standard hours report. 4th of July, we We responded to a couple structure fires down in District 4, both of them in Surfer North, Lake Stevens area. They had a outbuilding fire and a house fire. I believe the house fire was, I think, related to fireworks, and I'm not sure on the barn. But I think that's 2 years in a row that Lake Stevens has had multiple structure fires on 4th of July, so it tends to be the hotbed for fireworks related.
Well, they're closer to the supply.
Yeah, those are a little bit closer.
You say that, Lake
Um,
Stevens?
What's that?
Go Vikings?
No.
No?
Special ops, we got, I want to commend our tech rescue team and John Stewart specifically for coordinating. He not only coordinates a lot of the water drills, and he's one of the instructors along with the surfer cadre that puts on the regional water refresher training. He's also participated in block training we did with with Surfer over a 2-week period down at RLB, and we did rope rescue, rotated companies down, and we had all of our companies and techs rotate down, and Stewie spent several days down there as an instructor. It was great training. Everybody that rotated through it was raving about what awesome training that was. Stewart also coordinated for District 4 up at Station 42, a whole full day of tree rescues. So it was simulating parachutists in trees or an arborist that got stuck in a tree. We did purchase some tree climbing equipment, and when we had our initial rope training a year ago, they asked, what are your hazards in District 4? And I said, cars over embankment, and honestly, things up in trees, whether that's cat, parachute, hot air balloon. That's my slide tray in 30 years in Fire District 4, where it's not the window washer hanging off the 50, we just don't have it. Potential for a cell tower, stuff like that. And so Stewie coordinated a drill up there, and that was pretty awesome. We got a cool video that one of the guys took with the drone with some of that training. So they're getting in a lot of hands-on. So I know the county team does a quarterly or annual drill for each discipline. We have also just in District 4, we're doing quarterly, semi-annual type drills. We've done cars over the embankment, down to the river off Pine Avenue, tree rescue. So we're doing above and beyond just what the county training is. The confined space class that got rescheduled for October is full. So we got 9 District 4 members and then 3 from Olympia Fire, so a total of 12 students for that 4-day class. And what else I've got for you? Anthony Parra, some acknowledgements, completed his engineer probation right after the last commissioner meeting. So that's the last of the promoted engineers. We have no promoted engineers on probation currently. And I had a meeting with, first meeting with the ops, DC of ops up at Surfer, Colby. We had lunch and talked about the ILA that was just signed, and so we've worked through, our training divisions have already created a calendar, a joint calendar that's viewable by both agencies. So we just kind of talked about water use down there and how we're gonna make sure that when we're hooking into the Everett hydrant, how we record that, scheduling, and then fee schedule. So we've worked through that. We've already, I think, submitted some invoices to Surfer, and we're working out on the process on scheduling and everything. So everything's going great. The 2¼ hose that you guys approved last meeting has been ordered. Should be here in September.
It should be here in 2029.
Very possible. And then
Supply chain issues, you know.
you guys had approved, I think a few meetings ago, to add 6 mini thermal imager cameras for the air packs. We did receive those probably 3 weeks ago. Might have been right after the last board meeting, so those have been placed in service as well. So the crews want to thank you guys for approving all this awesome equipment. So that's all I got.
You mentioned the Everett, is that hydrant metered?
It is.
Okay.
Chief Collins mandated that it was a meter. But when we built the training site, Collins, asked them to put a meter on it, so that's how, it's the only metered hydrant I know of in our entire fire district.
Could it break?
Maybe.
I attempted to delete Jason's report for this month, to no avail. Thad and Jason prevailed, so it was still in there in the written piece. I don't have a whole lot to add to what I put here. I do want to throw John Stewart's name out there. In addition to everything that Jason said, he also came to me and wanted some power pole props for the training site to continue rescue training in the future, and led that, and I was able to acquire a couple free, real nice power poles from PUD. They delivered them, and John is working with them to get them installed at no cost to the district as well. So he's done just a super overall job with that, which has been really, really neat. Couple more kudos. Sean Witherow, Chief Waller, our apparatus committee. Last 2-3 weeks ago now, Elle and I came for their mandatory annual visit because we're part of the fire program. Pam spent about 2 hours with us looking at some programs, looking at things that we currently have in progress and things that we've completed. And Engine 41 happened to be here, and she says, I want to see that new engine. So I took her down. First thing she saw was the Panther and D4 on the side. She's totally impressed with that. But the big thing was the clean cab concept and then the way the compartments were designed. Very, very impressed with that. Lo and behold, today we had our annual, or our monthly state required meeting via Zoom for all of the people in the program. And she made an example out of us, which was really neat, talking about how neat our engine was, how well it was designed, and then the clean cab concept that goes with it, in collaboration with others that are trying the same thing.
Yeah.
So, nice job, you, Witherow, and the committee. They were very impressed. Last month, I was not able to attend the meeting, but I want to go back to, we had a crew here at Station 43 one day that ran over 122 preschoolers and young children in one day through pub ed events. They just kept coming in waves and coming in waves. On top of that, we had a unit at a preschool, at another school, doing pub ed on the same day. So over 150 students in one day by our personnel was incredible. It took some doing by the battalion chief and the staffing, but they did it. So huge kudos for that. We just had our second state mob of the year. So Tender 43 was mobilized out with the strike team on Friday, came back yesterday. And Brush 43 was on the first one. Tender went out with 2 on the second one. Short mob, but it was an immediate need. They literally said, please get in your vehicle and get on Highway 2 and drive to Wenatchee. We'll get back to you. I said,
We'll let you know details.
yeah, okay, so that's what we did. We do have a couple public outreach things that are coming up. Klahia Day's obviously the big one for us. We'll be involved in the Kids Fair on the 19th, the parade on the 20th, and then the Explorers will have their volunteer things that they do down there, but the district will be involved in both the Kids Fair like we are every year and then in the parade. So I'm looking forward to that. August
Where's the
1st,
Kids Fair?
I'm sorry.
The Kids Fair is when?
Kids Fair is the 19th, 3 to 7 p.m., and that's going to be down at Averill Field this year. They moved the location, so it'll be down by the Boys and Girls Club. We always have a couple of apparatus down there. We have a tent. We're generally the most popular attraction that's down there. We give away a lot of stickers and a lot of fire helmets. Kids climb all over the rigs, and they love it, and Klahia likes having us down there. So our people are good. So we've got staffing for that. We've got people for the parade. And after that, we're going to be talking about National Night Out. We're going to be talking about Read with a Firefighter, which is scheduled for August 1st at the Snowish Library, where one of our crews takes an apparatus down, reads books to the kids, then does the apparatus tour. That's always a huge hit as well. Other than that, any questions about the other stuff that I wrote? Okay, thank you.
All right. So since we last met, I've been moving around the county quite a bit. I've met with both, actually all three. Everett's Fire Marshal Curtis Brown, we had a great discussion. Kind of got to see what his operation's about, how they do some of their management things, their fee structures, things of that nature. Met with Chief Anderson from South County, same deal. Chief Waller and I went down and spent some good time with him. And actually met with Chief Messer today from Surfer. And I can say that all three of them have been seriously supportive of at least me personally and the direction that we're going with the Fire Marshal's office. You know, we're have some big decisions coming up with, you know, software acquisition, how that's gonna operate with the city. I've met with Coy. We had a good couple-hour discussion, at least in, you know, how the ILA is written, how we're gonna integrate and access computer systems and stuff like that across both of our respective agencies. As far as emergency management goes in Klahia days, I've been working with Sherry Arton quite a bit, going to the planning meeting for those. Today I spent the bulk of my day working up an IAP for that, which has never happened before. Integrating a lot of the city's plans. They had some good information. It's just a matter of kind of collating that into some sort of a cohesive plan and getting all of the information where it's handy when it's hitting the fan, if you know what I'm saying. So the mayor's in support of that. We've talked about unified command. The chief and I are going to meet with the police chief and Sergeant Venture tomorrow. Wednesday. Haven't talked with them about this whole program here, but the mayor's super supportive of that program. I took part in the EOC training that just occurred. Had a chance to meet with Jared Dibble and discuss Emergency Operations Center stuff, LAPC. I'll be involved with the LAPC, and then the greater emergency management planning as it relates to FEMA's disaster declarations. We need to be a part of that in order for us to be able to go after funds post-disaster or even preventative grant funds potentially, but that's kind of a prerequisite to being able to go after those funds as being part of that emergency management planning, I guess. As far as the PIO stuff goes, there's so many great things that we're doing as an organization every day that's not getting captured, and that's just because everybody's busy, right? Mobbing, I've been on two mobs, and how does that us going to Wenatchee, how does that affect our citizens? How does having, you know, a couple hundred kids crawling over engines, you know, what effect does that have? The good work that happens every day from our troops, we're not capturing that in a way that we could. So we're looking at getting some software to help us manage our social media. It will allow us to sit down, dedicate a block of time, preload our posts, if you will, and that software will drop those posts every single day. The goal being to try to get at least 2 posts a day out on either Facebook, Instagram, X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, to try to raise our position in the community, or the awareness of what Fire District 4 is doing every single day. Because we all know in this room, we do amazing things. But having that message out there every single day, seeing the good work that we're doing, explaining why it's important. The best training I ever got with ICS, absolutely bar none, was going on a mob and preparing for those big incidents back here. You bring that training back, explaining those things, because you know, I could see where an average citizen, well, why are we sending, you know, it makes no sense to them whatsoever. However, when we, you know, looking back to OSO, we have a train derailment. We're all risk now. So anyway, all that ICS training, we just part of the reason I was hired was to sell the district, you know, that's a part of my job. And, you know, I would ask that anybody here who has a camera and a phone, take pictures. I need to build a bank of pictures just so we can relate to that, and it's already started to happen, which I appreciate. In your travels, commissioners, if you see stuff going on, Evan, mutual aid stuff, if you happen to grab a picture, send those to me and we'll start building that bank, start beating the district for drum. So, yeah, 6 months or so, well, I'm hoping to have a robust social media program up and rolling where we're out there every day. So, it's been a very, very busy month for sure. Dawn sends me home with homework every night. Had to get another backpack, so anyway, it's been a real pleasure. It was asked of me back home, my former department, how it was going. And the way I described it to them is that I feel like I've worked here for months and it's only been a month. And a lot of that is due to these guys right here, certainly. And the PCs, everybody's been fantastic, so.
Well, we appreciate the effort you're putting in.
Yeah, no worries.
Yeah, thank you.
Glad to be here.
Well, first, is there anything from Chief Frater I can answer or attempt to answer? Okay. For me, I think I felt like I've talked a lot, so I think you saw what I've been working on in the last few weeks. I would also like to shout out to all of the staff, but especially Shauna. She, as a part of the learning effort, I just kind of gave her all that raw information, and she put almost all of that presentation and documents together, obviously with the help of Christine and Sam, but put a lot of work in. She learned about bond ratings and councilmanic bonds and voted on bonds and all kinds of fire district stuff that she had no idea existed, but it was, I think it was a pretty good learning tool for her. Exactly. And Caitlin's is coming. We just don't know what it is yet.
Stand by.
But also working with Dark Horse still, but then Sultan was interested in maybe combining with us. So Chief Johnson and I have worked with Dark Horse and to get a kind of a price with the two of us and how to split that. So he's going to bring that to his board tonight or tomorrow too. And so we might have it different, and and he and I agreed that, hey, we would just collaborate on figuring out how to build those dashboards and it would all work together. So that might be an option. Still working on getting Central Pier so I can give you a better demonstration and possibly Spokane. I don't even know. Oh yeah. Had our first meeting with the chiefs that came out of kind of the to-do from the all commissioners meeting, which was the medical trust. Very, very positive today. So we'll be having another meeting or two and probably getting labor involved pretty quick. We'll talk to our labor group tomorrow about it. And so this might be something that we start actually potentially working on this year, or at least 26 to have it in place by 26 or 25 to have it in place by 25 or 26. So I'm pretty excited about that. I mean, it could be the first thing that we get a true, almost countywide collaboration with something.
And a great benefit.
Yes, exactly. And it really integrates with what a lot of the labor groups are trying, the wellness initiatives, the mental health initiatives. So we got a lot of different things that are all working on this that a medical trust could really centralize and put force behind it instead of kind of having these disparate things that are trying to find traction. And then we hired those 4 that we talked about, so that they'll be starting here in a couple weeks, and everybody's pretty excited about that. And I think I've talked enough tonight,
So they're starting the pre-academy?
Yeah, no, because they have already gone through it all. They've gone through the pre-academy and the academy and the post-academy. So they'll be just starting,
Got it.
we're gonna put them on
2 weeks a day.
2 weeks a days, mid-August, right?
Yep, August 16th,
Yeah.
and then they'll hit shift September 1st.
Perfect. Nice.
Yeah, they got the academy, they've already done all that training track is done, and besides
Does that time
Steve,
count for their probation?
no.
One of them
They
asked.
still have a year to prove themselves.
The part-timers will start pre-academy
August 1.
August 1. So we'll have the part-timers start pre-academy August 1. That's why we kind of delayed the full-time. The full-time will start on days, August 16th. So we get these guys going, they'll go in and go on shift.
Okay.
And then the part-timers will go to the academy when the full-timers start shift work.
Yeah. Part-time members will start pre-academy August, they'll finish basically the end of December, they will be assigned to shift January of 2025.
And then the next group is another group of full-time.
Correct. They started the hiring process for that with interviews scheduled in October?
September.
September.
Yeah, we're pulling apps off of NTN in August.
August.
We'll send out our application to the top scoring candidates. We'll review those applications when they come back, make sure they actually have an EMT cert, paramedic
Good
cert,
concept.
all that stuff. And then oral boards right now are scheduled September, I think, 16th, 17th, 18th, 19th. We scheduled 4 days. We may not need them, but, and then that group would start January 1, essentially pre-academy.
And then another part-time in the fall, right?
At least advertise and see what, last time we advertised, we got
And we might
15.
filter some part-timers in this full-time, just depending on how numbers work.
Okay.
But that's not the plan A.
Commissioner Erickson?
Nothing.
Great work. There's a lot of work going on here. Thank you.
I don't think I have anything to say either, other than, thank you all. Welcome aboard, Caitlin. Thank you, gentlemen, for your presentation. Appreciate your input.
Thank you for
Look forward
coming.
to continuing to work with you through this process. Being no further business, meeting's adjourned
Sounds good.
at
Yeah.
21:42.
Make this go off.
Yes, sir.